Hello. This episode of Yet Another Geek Show is brought to you by none other than Audible, the place where you don't have to read a book, you know. It's pretty sweet. You should check out our 30-day free trial. Get 1 Audible book and 2 Audible originals. Go to audibletrial.com/YAGS. That is YAGS for Yet Another Geek Show. Hello and welcome back to Yet Another Geek Show where, damn it, wait, let's start over. I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
Oh, do I go second? Shit. Guys, we've only done like 40 episodes. I don't know the order yet. I'm your host, Dalton Munnell.
I'm here this time. I'm your host, Josh Keir.
Oh, we do have a third host.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Sometimes.
So Josh, how are you? You haven't been here in a while.
I'm pretty good. I was pretty sick last week, but I seem to be doing better now, so that's great.
Mm-hmm. That's real good.
All right. Well, since you missed out on our E3 episode, I am going to give you the opportunity to tell me why I should care about Collection of Mana.
Oh, boy.
You were excited about it, and we don't know anything about it.
I like Collection of Mana. I'm a fan of it. I didn't realize what it was.
So, the RPG Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo, I have a real big soft spot for it in my heart because it's the first RPG that I ever played. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old, and my aunt gave it to me. So it's got a really special place in my heart. It's also just a pretty damn good game. It hasn't aged as well as other Square Enix classics, just in that the gameplay's become a little bit dated. It's an action RPG that leans heavily towards the action side of things. Fuck.
All right, I'm going to have to edit that distraction. That's a shame, because I've not bothered to edit the last 2 episodes I posted.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
You guys can go.
We'll knock it off.
Hey, no, it's all good. We were just making faces at him. We'll just leave it in. Continue, Josh. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to...
Oh, editor Dalton from the future not editing this. Never mind. Sorry.
All right, so Secret of Mana is a action RPG that leans heavily towards more of the action side of the equation than the RPG. In a lot of ways, it's been compared to the Zelda series, and I don't think that's wholly accurate. But
Yeah.
gameplay wise, you control up to 3 characters. Well, you control 1 character out of a party of 3 that are all on the field at the same time, and it's very much just a dungeon crawler. There are a number of unique weapons to use, and you unlock different elemental spirits that give you magic spells over the course of the game. And it's very much just, hacking, slashing your way through a bunch of dungeons and listening to the certified gold Squaresoft soundtrack that every game they put out back in the day had, Secret of Mana being no exception. The story's pretty bare bones, but it's serviceable enough to get you from point A to point B. You get a dragon that you can use to fly around the world, and that's pretty cool. All in all,
That's way cooler than an airship.
it is absolutely way cooler than an airship. It's a really fun game. Maybe slightly dated, but still worth going and checking out. But its sequel, which is now called Trials of Mana, but for the longest time was just referred to by Seiken Densetsu 3, which was its Japanese name.
It was never released in America until now, correct?
Until the E3 last week. It was never released in America. It came out in, I think, like 95.
Something like that.
And people have been clamoring for it to be localized ever since and had pretty much entirely given up hope. I had tracked down a fan translation of that game back in high school, I think, to play it in English, because that's the only way until now you were able to actually experience that game. And the Trials of Mana is a fantastic game. Until now, I would have called it Square's most underrated game. And in fact, it probably still is, just because so few people in non-Japanese speaking countries have had the opportunity to play it yet. It takes everything about the first game and turns it up to 11. The combat system is streamlined and a lot better. It takes out a lot of the clunkiness of like menu navigation and spell casting that Secret of Mana kind of had. It's actually incredibly, I guess, daring with its storytelling. So this is something that the only other game that I can think of that tells its story this way is actually Octopath Traveler, which came out for the Nintendo Switch like last year. There are 6 main characters to this game. And when you start a new file in Trials of Mana, you pick 3 of them that will become your eventual party. The first one that you pick out of the 3 will become the main character of that run, and you'll go through an extra like origin story with that character where it kind of fleshes out their backstory a little bit more, and you get introduced to like their motivations and some characters from their past that will then go on to heavily influence the plot of the game. You'll meet up with the other 2 characters that you chose fairly early on in the story, and the other 3 characters you don't pick, besides some cameos throughout the game world, you just don't get to use on that playthrough. And depending on the characters that you chose, you could have anywhere between, I think, 4 different final bosses of the entire game. The story is heavily influenced, like the antagonists are heavily influenced by the character that you chose to be the main character of the story. So the game itself has just like absurd replay value from that fact alone, and it's actually worth replaying 3 or 4 times to get all the different plot progressions and endings, because the combat is so much more fluid and fun, and the soundtrack I think is the best 16-bit era Squaresoft soundtrack that they've ever made. Maybe second after Chrono Trigger, but like a close second. And I would not make that comparison if the game didn't deserve it. So to make a very, very, very long story short, this game's fucking baller. And and honestly, like, I feel like maybe people just don't know, but nobody's making that big of a deal out of the fact that they just casually translated it out of nowhere over 20 years later, almost 20 years later, like 15 years later, and just kind of dropped it out there when there was no indication that they had ever seen any worth in doing that. And for forgotten games like this, it just doesn't happen. The only other like comparable time I can think of this is 3 or 4 years ago when they finally translated Mother 1 or Earthbound 0, the NES entry in the Mother franchise, into English. And side note, now that Trials of Mana has a localization, I get to reopen the old wound of hoping that Nintendo translates Mother 3 at some point. I can't believe I'm getting my hopes up for this again, but now I am. So I'm ready for Nintendo to hurt me all over again. But in this case, at least, it's just incredible. I picked up Collection of Mana this week. That was going to be one of the things
I was just going to say.
Playing. So here we go. I really just wanted to support the translation effort more than anything else. I know some people have. I've seen complaints out there that $40 is a kind of steep price tag for 2 Super Nintendo games, but
there's more work there than just
a Game Boy
remodel.
game that's like. I had never played Final Fantasy Adventure, which was technically the first game in the Mana franchise before this, and it's like really good for an original Game Boy game, but it's an original Game Boy game. So
Yeah.
I did play Final Fantasy Adventure.
Okay, well then
Oh.
maybe we can get to that and talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, as a child.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably try this collection, but I mean, 20 years ago I played.
Sure.
Final Fantasy.
See, like, I know I got my little like soapbox about Final Fantasy VIII, but what I had neglected to mention about the E3 thing was that Final Fantasy VIII's source code was lost. So they had to rebuild the entire game to do a remaster.
Yeah, and the shame is that they decided to change nothing about it.
Yeah, the character models definitely looked different. I don't know, because like I would buy this game on multiple, like on PC and on Switch if it came out, but like only like I may just buy it on the Switch instead of the PC unless like it's getting a massive overhaul. Maybe they just reused cutscenes because they're still trying to finalize them again. I don't know, but
Well, so
you
my
talked about
confusion
supporting,
is-
individual projects, so I thought I'd bring that up, and that's why I said it.
Yeah, well, so my confusion is, like, I probably will play it on the Switch, even though I've had it on Steam for years.
Yeah.
But that announcement of this remaster included Steam or PC in their announcement. And so, given that it barely looked any different in that announcement and they didn't discuss whether it had any added features, like, what does that mean to me if I want to play it on Steam? Are they expecting me to buy it again? Are they replacing my copy? Is it just a minor update?
Right. That's a good
What
question.
the hell is it?
I don't really know what's happening there, but as somebody who does already own the Steam version of Final Fantasy VIII, I'll tell you,
I think we all three individually own it.
don't even bother playing it because of all the final. Well, I can't say of all the Final Fantasy games that they've ported, it's the worst because look what they did to Final Fantasy VI. But it is not a good port for the number one reason being that all of the soundtrack is in MIDI, and I had to go download a mod. There's a pretty high profile mod called Roses and Wine for the Steam version of Final Fantasy VIII that you actually have to patch your game with to be able to play with the original PlayStation audio. And it sounds really bad if you don't. It's like unplayably bad if you don't. It just sounds really cheesy and awful.
So I would bet this remaster probably replaces that on Steam.
I would hope
Probably.
so. I would hope so. That alone might convince me to shell out money for it, depending on how much they're charging for it. At the end of the day, it's
Didn't
still
7 also, like, at first just have the bad MIDI music, and then I think they actually updated it and fixed it and replaced with the PlayStation audio? I don't think you need... I could be talking out of my ass, but I don't think you need the mod anymore.
See,
And I think
yeah,
I do not remember having to patch Final Fantasy VII to play it with the original audio, and I last played through it maybe 2 years ago on Steam. So that's as recent as I have information.
Hey, speaking of Final Fantasy VII, last night I finally took the plunge, and I'm definitely going to beat it. I bought Final Fantasy VII on the Switch.
Is this your
So-
first time playing it?
No, I've played it a few times. I've never even gotten past the first disc. Hell, I've barely made it out of Midgar.
Well, then you'll be right
So-
at home when Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out in March, because that's all we're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also in the middle of a playthrough. I'm maybe a couple hours past Midgar.
Just something real quick, Josh. Last night, when I bought Final Fantasy VII on the Switch, I seen that Crypt of the Necrodancer was like $4, so I picked it up.
Okay.
And then
I've never played the original Crypt of the Necrodancer, but I've been playing Cadence of Hyrule this week.
see, I was gonna pick it up, but then I was like, I don't know. Like, I kind of want to see the source material first, and maybe hope that Cadence goes down in price in between.
It's got the Zelda name on it. It literally never will.
Good point. Good point.
That said, it is pretty reasonably priced to begin with.
Yeah, $25.
Isn't it like
$25.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's reasonable.
I've just
for
been-
a brand new release.
I've spent a little bit of money lately because I finally got my VR headset fixed, and I was like, oh, hey, Final Fantasy's on sale. And then I seen that was on sale. So I'm like, all right, sure, I'll pick up both of them. And then, paying bills and stuff. I've
well,
spent
also,
quite a bit of
guys,
my
Humble
money.
Bundle's having a real good. This might not be relevant by the time our audience hears this, but Humble Bundle's having a good Switch game sale.
Oh, really?
Oh, for
Do you
real?
know what it is?
Well, I mean, it's they called it like the Nintendo E3 sale. I think most things are like 33% off or something. Hopefully
looking
that's
that
still
up.
relevant by the time the audience hears that in 2 days. But
Yeah, making a note
anyway,
to
so
check
Josh,
that out
were
later.
you? Yeah, Josh,
I just
were you
loaded up
ready
the
to talk
website,
about Cadence of Hyrule, or do you want to wait till you?
I haven't
played a bit more of it?
finished it, but I can give some initial impressions.
Sure.
Okay, so initial impressions for somebody who has played maybe 15 minutes of Crypt of the Necrodancer in his lifetime and sucked really badly during those 15 minutes. Cadence of Hyrule was awesome. It is super fun. I wasn't sure what I expected going into this game. I didn't know if it was going to feel like a Zelda game or feel like Necrodancer with a cheap coat of paint on it, but it actually really does feel like a Zelda game that you just kind of play in, a non-traditional way. One thing that I really like about Cadence of Hyrule, I guess over the original, is that you actually have like a real Zelda overworld to traverse.
Oh, sweet.
And every screen, if there are enemies on it, you do the whole Necrodancer thing where there's the beat bar and you have to move in tune with the beat and attack to the beat. But when you clear all the monsters out, you suddenly gain the ability to move around that screen at your own pace. Sometimes there are like shops or caves you can go into. A lot of screens actually, like in traditional Zelda fashion, will have, a staircase hidden under a bush or under a rock that you can blow up. You will pick up Zelda staple items like bombs and a bow and arrow and a hook shot and things that you can actually use to traverse the world. In combat, each of those items has their own, I guess, cadence, for lack of a more creative word to use there. In how you use them. For like the bow, you hold down, you draw the string back for one beat and then let go on the next beat.
Oh, neat.
It's got a really good way of getting you into the flow of the game, and the most important thing for a rhythm game is, of course, the soundtrack. And what I've heard of this game's soundtrack so far is straight fire. So that in itself is enough for me to kind of justify the purchase. I don't know if these types of games have a thing where you maybe like unlock a jukebox mode at some point by playing through the game, but if this game has a feature like that, I'm really, really looking forward to unlocking it. Nice thing too is that you can play as Zelda. I don't think that's really a spoiler, because like, so you start off as playing as Cadence, who I guess is the protagonist from the original Crypt of the Necrodancer. But very early on, and by very early on, I mean literally 5 minutes into the tutorial, you are given the option to save either Link or Zelda from they're both asleep, and you can wake one of them up, and then you get to play as either Link or Zelda. I chose Zelda because why wouldn't you, given the chance to play as her for probably the first time if you haven't played high.
I swear, I think I said on our very last episode, I wish we had more games where we could play Zelda.
Okay, well, here you go.
And that I hope and think she's going to be playable in the Breath of the Wild follow-up. I think they're both going to be main playable characters.
I think they're building towards
there we
that,
go.
and I'm going to be really disappointed if they don't. But anyway, back to Cadence. I believe you can find the character that you don't initially choose in the overworld, and then you unlock the ability to like swap between them at will.
Nice.
I've only played about 2 hours so far, so I haven't gotten there yet. And there's definitely a steep learning curve. So it's great that the music is so good, because at least at the beginning, you're going to be hearing the same few songs a lot, because I was only making it like a screen or two before getting my butt handed to me. But there's more of a progression curve than most roguelike games because it's really easy to get power-ups that persist between lives in this game. Every time you full clear a screen, you'll get some diamonds that you can use and a special shop when you die to either buy just one-time power-ups for your next run or permanent upgrades for your character that persist between runs, which can be either different weapons or just heart containers that permanently increase your life total forever, and probably some other things, which makes it a lot more forgiving, because even if you kind of have to struggle to make every inch of progress early on, one, you'll be getting better at playing the game on your own because every monster has its own tell of what it'll do, and just by watching the way that the monsters move, you'll get a feel for their rhythm and how to kind of match your own rhythm to be able to combat them. And on top of that, you'll also just be unlocking these little incremental upgrades for your character that make it easier for you to get past the places where you were stuck, and also just maybe a little bit more forgiving of mistakes than the game is when you start.
Okay.
So I guess I'll cut off my impressions there. I'm really looking forward to finishing the rest of the game. There are I think 4 dungeons, actual kind of Zelda-y but also crypty dungeons in this game. I've completed one of them, and as far as I can tell, the dungeons are also kind of randomized, which is cool. I think that's going to lead some replay value there. All in all, this is really cool. I'm glad I picked it up, and I never really played the original enough to know whether or not I liked it, but I just know that the original Crypt of the Necrodancer kicked my teeth in so hard originally that I was never interested in trying to play it again until they threw a coat of Zelda paint on it. So you got me, Nintendo. I'm a sucker fanboy. Good job.
So, fun story. I also, several years ago, I think I mentioned this once already, but picked up Crypt of the Necrodancer. It whooped my ass. I refunded it within 15 minutes. Got really concerned about this game, but excited anyway. And I also played it, but I only played it for 10, 15 minutes again because I was multitasking and watching TV at the same time, and I was like, oh shit, I have to hear the music if I'm going to play this. Let me sit it down. And now I'm conflicted between I was so charmed by it immediately with the Zelda paint that I'm like, let me keep doing this. But then I'm also like, let me go grab the original again and let me play through that first, because that's just, why am I like this? I don't know. But I grabbed the game too, and
I will say that Cadence is kind of convincing me to give the original a try again, and it's apparently really cheap all the time. So cool, they're getting even more money out of me now.
And next week you'll have some of my opinions. Oh man, I don't know. I've been playing a lot of games lately. I picked up that Xbox Game Pass. And I know I tossed out what I've been playing, but I've gotten to play more of what I was talking about. The Messenger, for example. If you both like Shovel Knight, you will fucking love The Messenger. It is so good. Have you guys heard anything about The Messenger before?
The name is ringing a bell right now, but when I try to picture what the game is, I'm drawing a bunch of blanks. So,
okay. The Messenger, you start off as kind of like a daydreaming ninja. Okay.
I knew it was one of these ninja games. Sorry.
Yeah. It's Ninja Gaiden with a Shovel Knight soundtrack. It's so good. But you start off and you end up going to your master, who's like, one of these days there's going to be demons. And your guy's like, no, there's not. And then, no shit, you just see a flash of light and everything's on fire. And they're like, oh no, demons. It's like that. And it's almost in that kind of comedy style too. the whole game, because like you end up seeing that there's this giant demon. They were waiting for the hero from the west to fulfill the prophecy of beating the demon overlord or Satan or whatever he is in the game. He shows up and he says, "Oh no, looks like I didn't make it in time," and hands this scroll to your character, and he says, "You need to take this to the mountain. You're now the messenger." So you go through this world trying to get to this mountain, and the entire time you have an insanely good soundtrack, very good precise controls for platforming. You get cooler tools, like eventually you get like a wingsuit, like so when you start to fall, you can like catch the air to like soften your landing. You get a double jump by attacking enemies. So when you jump and attack, if you hit an enemy or like a lantern, you get a second jump, which is a really useful mechanic to kind of master early on. It's just really cool. Like, especially when you go to like the shop, it's the same shopkeep every time because he's in the room of time or something like that. And he kind of like breaks the fourth wall with the game. So like he'll like later on in the game, you get the ability to look at his crystal ball and like you see a vision, and he's like, "You seen a vision in that, huh?" And your guy's like, "I don't know, I kind of seen a little bit of something." And he's like, "Oh shit." He's like, "That means that this is going on and that's going on." And he's like, "You just have to wait for that content to come out." And then your character's like, "What do you mean content?" And he's like, "Stay tuned, folks." And then like the dialogue ends. Like it's just really witty dialogue. Like the shopkeep has a story each time you visit a new area, and it's like really like it's existential. Like each time, like you have him tell the story, or there's a cabinet that you can go to, and he like threatens to like take your ability to skip dialogue if you keep trying to open the cabinet, and eventually like you get punished for doing it. And like he goes on this big rant. The dialogue, the gameplay, the imagery is awesome too. I don't know, man. It's becoming like it's in the top 10 of my like indie games, and it's a strong recommend. And I think if you guys play it, we would spotlight it. Like it's a lot of fun. Like it's like Sekiro in the regards that it kept my attention. And Josh, I think it would be kind of up your alley. I don't know about Dalton because Dalton sucks at games.
Hey,
I'm doing fine at Sekiro.
Are you? How far are you?
I am. No, I refuse to talk about Sekiro again on this show until I'm done. But I'm doing fine.
You know, it's funny that you kind of refer to this game as like Shovel Knight, but Ninja Gaiden instead.
Yeah.
Because did you know that Yacht Club's game's next game is a Ninja Gaiden like game?
Yes.
It's called Cyber Shadow, and it's like a cyberpunk Ninja Gaiden.
Is that available to wishlist already?
It might be. I know the trailer's on YouTube, and it looks heckin' dope.
How soon? Before King of Cards?
King of Cards will probably come out before that. They announced the game, I think, back in March. It's like in super early development, so I don't even think they have a teased maybe release date yet. So I'm expecting another year or two.
Okay.
I just wishlisted it. This looks nuts.
Oh
but
yeah,
no
it
release date.
looks great. The trailer looks incredible.
What was it called again? Because you should type it in our Discord for me to search for it later.
Okay, I will say it as I'm typing it. It is called Cyber Shadow.
Dope. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Very
Check
cool.
it out.
Oh, I'm looking that up as soon as we're done here. Okay, I have like another game.
Which listed your dumb game too, Alex.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did
Thanks.
too. It looks really fun.
The Messenger, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's on Game Pass if you didn't get it yet, Josh or Dalton.
Oh, unwishlisted.
Oh. Because the other game I've been playing on, like really have been playing, is actually with my wife. Sea of Thieves. Do you guys know anything about this game? Because it's interesting.
I recall it at last year's E3.
Okay.
I haven't like looked into it since it actually released.
Because quite frankly, guys, if we all three let's played this game together, this would be a fucking blast. You're a pirate trying to collect booty as in money, and treasure chests.
My
and
least
all this
favorite
other
kind of booty.
Anyways, and you like say I join your game, Josh. You have a boat. I would help you command your boat. We would go on quests, dig up buried booty, buried treasure, buried booty. I like buried booty. It sounds funny. And then we'd turn it into like get stuff. Like you fight other people like in game. There's tons of interesting lore and story behind it. Especially because like the most of it's you're going to be spending time in the sea. And of course, the biggest thing that I'm afraid of is sharks. And of course, the newest update just announced sharks in this game, including like, for example, if you're sailing, you can run into a megalodon shark. And it's very cartoony in art style, but they chase your boat, or like you can fight the kraken. But it's super fun, especially when you have more people and you're all communicating well, because it's one of those games where you really have to cooperate for it to be fun. I mean, it could be fun if you don't, but what's the point in that, right?
Right.
Knowing Dalton, he's just looking at me through the webcam and going, "I'm gonna fucking ruin this game." Like those are the eyes you gave
I
me,
have
man.
no intentions to cooperate.
But yeah, if you all get Game
Not on
Pass,
Steam, does it even exist?
yeah, it's called Game Pass for your computer. Get it?
Yeah, it's a Microsoft
Yeah.
published or developed or whatever.
Next, it'll tell me to get the Epic Games Store.
Oh, I would never do that. I don't even want it.
Which I almost did because they have Journey on there. Did you guys know that?
Yeah,
It's killing me, dude.
And I really want to play it on stream.
It's definitely a test of will, but if it helps, people are really upset with the port.
yeah.
Oh, well, I guess that makes it better.
Well,
I have never played
because
Journey.
Dalton bought it for me.
Oh.
Seriously, you've never played it?
I've never played Journey because I didn't have a PS3 when it came out.
Okay.
So I really wanted to like start off my Twitch stream with a first time playthrough of Journey, because everybody that I've mentioned this idea to is like, oh, I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
Holy shit. Yeah, dude.
It's my second favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Most people I've talked to about the game have said something along those lines. So I can tell that
It's-
I've really missed out on something over the years, and I'd really like to rectify that. But at the same time, it's on the Epic Store, and that's not great.
If you have a capture card, PS4 is a perfectly reasonable way to play it. It looks real good on there.
Yeah.
It's 1080 60.
Yeah, Josh, if you weren't so far away from you, I'd drive my PS4 up to your damn house.
Oh, we've got 2 PS4s at the house. I don't think we have a copy of the game, but
Mine's digital.
that's okay, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sure
yeah.
it's not too expensive.
I
We've
remember
got an
my
Elgato lying
experience.
around. I have no idea how
Oh.
capture cards work, but if I sat down with some free time and tried to puzzle it out, I could probably get that working.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
knows?
I remember the first time that Dalton had me play this game. And it was, hey, come to my house. We were in his basement. There was a radiator and some handcuffs. No.
That sure does sound like a journey you guys took together.
Yeah. No, he shut the lights off, slapped this like 50-pound headset on my face, and was like, play this damn game.
This was one of those. They're actually really gimmicky and stupid, but this was one of those surround sound headsets that actually had multiple speakers in each cup.
Yeah. I just
So yeah, it was heavy as shit.
I just remember you like putting this thing on my head for me, like you lined it up and then pulled it apart and then slapped it against my head. That shit hurt, man. Like that hurt. So I wasn't crying from the game. I was crying from the excruciating pain my ears were experiencing. Oh shit, but yeah, dude, let us know before you stream that because we'll watch. At least I will. I don't know about Dalton. He's not as good of a friend as I am. Josh.
I've been watching Josh's
Dalton
stream.
has watched every time I've streamed Sonic Adventure 2 with Kyla. So.
I don't know. I don't know where to find your streams. You're just gonna have to message me about it, man.
There you go.
Damn. I'm a good friend.
You don't even know about Anus the Chow.
I'd like to know about Anus.
All of your clips on Twitch have anus in the title.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Dude, you're gonna have to give me your Twitch handle because that'll be fucking golden when I get the chance to see it.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Anyway,
so, yeah, Dalton, what?
So I finished Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Finally.
Means I'm playing Sekiro. Let's talk about Sekiro now.
Wait a minute. Has it been like 5 minutes since I've talked about Sekiro on this show?
Like 6.
Oh shit.
The shadows have died
man.
like 3 times.
Shit. Anyway, Yakuza Kiwami 2. I've talked about Zero and the first Kiwami on this show before. I'm not going to re-summarize the whole style of the game, but similar to Kiwami, Kiwami 2 is a full remake of the original Yakuza 2, and this one is actually in a brand new engine compared to Zero and Kiwami. It's the engine for the most recent Yakuza 6 that I don't think is released in the US yet, at least not on PC. So anyway, really big graphics upgrade there. But what like made it like really pop out is that so far for all 3 games of this series I've played, they take place in the same map.
Okay.
And like the games do take place at different time periods, and so you can see the buildings changing and everything. But for all 3 of these games that, depending on how much of a completionist you are, they could be 20 or 120 hours. You spend all of that time in just one really densely packed map. This one's still in that same map, but a whole new engine. And just that game came with some quality of life upgrades, such as you get interrupted less with like animations and loading screens and whatnot, because now you can say walk into a building without triggering a loading screen like you'd have to before, or when you stumble into some tough guys in the street, it goes right into combat instead of having to give you a dramatic animation about it. So just all around a smoother experience. But they changed the combat, and I don't know if I'm a fan of what they did, because the previous 2 games, and I don't know if the original, I think PS2 versions did this or not, but they made you switch between fighting styles. So you'd have like a really fast one, like a balanced one, and then one where you hit really hard but walk real slow and tank-like, and you just, had to choose the right one based on what enemies are surrounding you and that kind of thing. You knew that, like, if you were playing in the fast mode, you wouldn't be able to pick up weapons from the environment. Just things like that. You knew you wouldn't be able to dodge if you were in the tanky fight style. But this game did away with that.
Okay.
And I don't know if there were people that didn't like the old system. The only thing I could see people complaining about was that you had to like gain your abilities for each playstyle separately. So maybe that was a bit annoying. Like you'd be putting experience points into benefiting one of your 3 fight styles. Maybe people didn't like that, and that's why they did away with it. Or maybe it was just laziness. I don't know, but just felt like it took some of the effort out of the combat. Like it's a series where the combat is like, it's not Sekiro hard, but it's just hard enough that I have to pay attention, and they kind of dumbed it down here, and I don't like that.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's generally the same game as the last two, and I'm still really into it. And apparently Sega has recently said that after the success of these 3 ports they've done to PC in the last, I think, half a year, that they officially consider Yakuza to be a multi-platform title from this point on. So I guess I can be expecting the whole rest of the series, and I'm thrilled about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because Sega's been pretty faithful to putting a lot of their stuff on PC, haven't they?
Yeah, now if only they could crawl up Atlas's ass and get me some Persona.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk like E3 disappointments, but there's one. Nothing about Persona for PC. They put out Catherine. I gave you money for it. It was dope. Other people gave you money for it. Give us Persona.
Right.
End of rant.
I've been meaning to play Persona 5 for the longest time, and I've decided to just wait another year to do it because the Royal Edition's coming out. And if I'm going to play a 120 plus hour JRPG, I might as well play the definitive edition with the most content.
Yeah,
I say this having played through the first 12 or so hours of Persona 5 already, and having really liked what I had played so far, but that was also like a year ago, and I've forgotten everything that I've done, so I'd have to start completely over again. So I'm just gonna wait.
Yeah, I don't like this mindset where people will finish a 120-hour game and then be like, "Ooh, you released it for me again for." Is it? I don't know. Is it going to be like full price or like $40?
I'm sure
whatever
it will
is,
be full price.
Ooh, let me play it all over again for an extra 10 hours of content. And
yeah,
really, you're going to spend that much of your life on it to experience a little bit more content?
Are you guys both fans of the Persona series? Because genuinely, I know nothing about it.
I had never played a game before the bit and piece of Persona 5 that I had played.
Is it like... do you have to go in like sequential order, or are they all like an anthology, kind of like Final Fantasy?
You don't need to play any prior games in the series. It's like Final Fantasy in that regard.
Okay, cool.
Also, in that, like, numbered entries will have their own spin-offs. So there's spin-offs of 4, spin-offs of 5.
Okay, yeah. Because
I've never played one, but I've been learning a lot about them through, podcasts I listen to and YouTube channels I follow. When so many musicians at MagFest, and I've been really wanting to get into it.
And Smash now.
Yeah. And now Smash. So even more people are learning about it, and still no PC. I want to believe it's around the corner because Sega's been so good about it, and we finally got one Atlas game, but that was in January, February, and they still haven't mentioned having one more Atlas game come to PC.
Wow.
Lay down the hammer, Sega.
Yeah.
Anyway, Josh, anything else you want to bring up?
Actually, I want to pick your brain too, Josh.
All right. Pick away.
Go ahead. Oh,
I was going to say, I missed E3. I'm sure we've already talked about Banjo-Kazooie being in Smash.
That's what I was going to bring up, was that and the Dragon Quest Hero. How do you feel about those?
Let me just say about Banjo-Kazooie. Oh, so good. So good. That trailer was perfect. Oh my God. I could not be happier with the way that they made them look, the way the Spiral Mountain stage looks, that they actually brought in Grant Kirkhope to do a song. Just everything about that whole reveal was absolutely perfect. And I am solidly about the Dragon Quest Hero announcement because I've never played a game from that franchise besides the very first one for the NES.
I'm solid because Smash doesn't need any more damn sword-wielding anime-ish game characters.
Unless they put in Isaac from Golden Sun, in which case you can go die.
Yeah. I'm excited about the Dragon Quest Hero because Dragon Quest 8 is one of my favorite games as far as the Dragon Quest series goes. But I'm excited.
It's doing that thing where the different costumes are actually different characters, right?
Yeah, I think so. But regardless, the costume that I like is in there, which is pretty sweet. But
Yeah, if only
I'm
they do that with all of the 5 different Marths that are in the game.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I'm very unimpressed with Lucina being in the game, to tell you the truth. That was super lazy. Robin's unique, but that's beside the point. I'm excited because
Robin's not one of the Marths. There are enough Marths without Robin counting.
Yeah. But I'm excited because the fact
I played through the classic mode with all of the sword wielding characters, and I cannot get a grasp on the difference between any of them except Cloud.
Anyways,
I don't get it.
I'm super excited just because Akira Toriyama's artwork is finally in a Smash game.
It's the closest we're ever going to get to the original, like, 2003 game FAQs petitions of put Goku in Smash Brothers.
I'm okay with Goku not being in Smash. It's just super cool and exciting that I'm getting to see Akira Toriyama's work in one of the most, like, beloved franchises I know.
Oh, definitely. And like it's cool. Like, there are a ton of people that are hyped about this Dragon Quest thing, and I just don't get it because I haven't played any of the games. It really does feel like the announcements were kind of like, let's do something that's really going to mesh with our Japanese fans, and let's do something that's really going to mesh with our Western fans. Which,
fair.
Which I actually like a great deal. Like, there was something for everyone. I started off pretty whelmed by the Dragon Quest announcement, but I had solidly given up hope on Banjo-Kazooie ever getting in, and I was genuinely surprised.
I just think it's cool that, like, Smash has been including third-party characters for a long time, but it's finally hit the extent of straight up being a character that their competition owns.
Yeah.
That's a new one. That's a unique one. Like, we could honestly have Master Chief next time.
I don't know that I'd want it.
Except for the fact that I don't believe the Chief has ever been in a game on a Nintendo console. Then again, no, that's not true. Cloud was in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories for the Game Boy Advance, so he technically counts.
Yeah. Fuck, I forgot about that.
So,
had Joker from Persona been in a Nintendo game before?
Oh, fuck me. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Everybody kept saying, yeah, Persona 5 Switch when, because otherwise he's breaking the rule.
Who owns Bayonetta?
Nintendo owns Bayonetta.
Seriously?
Partially.
Yeah.
Partially. It's like joint owned, Nintendo and Sega.
Because Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U exclusive.
And it's bizarre.
Right. So will Bayonetta 3.
It's bizarre because the first Bayonetta, until it was ported later, was not on a Nintendo console.
Right. They ported over the first Bayonetta and just kind of packaged it in with Bayonetta 2. So if you only played Nintendo consoles, you have any idea what's going on in that game. Here, play through this old game first before you can play the new game.
Oh, shit.
Meanwhile, I have the first one on Steam and no hope of getting the second one on Steam. So,
yeah. Well, you said it's partly owned by Sega, right?
touche.
Well, don't lose hope yet. Dalton, I know you and I had this conversation off air, but I finally got my VR headset back up and running after like not having it for like 2 months.
Do you have 4 VR games of the week?
I have 2.
Okay.
I tried out Blade and Sorcery finally.
Ooh.
Have you played it all, Dalton? I know it's your copy, but
I played it the day it released and haven't played it since.
Go back and play it. It is sweet.
I know it's been heavily updated since then.
I showed the trailer to a coworker, and because I opened it up and I was like, oh, sweet. Like there's actual like hit detection, like with not just character models, but like every object. So like if you clash swords together, or if you use an axe, you can hook an enemy's sword with the bottom end of the axe blade and knock it out of the way, which is I'm a fan of HEMA, historical European martial arts. So that's an actual move that people do, like hooking a blade away. You can punch a motherfucker. Like you can just straight up punch them in the face and they fall down. It's the best. But the opening of this trailer, like I was like, oh, this seems pretty sandboxy, but I feel like it's only fighting, you know? And there's more to that. You can use your arena around you. Like somebody took an axe in the trailer and there was a rope and they took the axe and jumped with the axe and hooked onto the rope and used it as a zip line. Then somebody took a dagger and stabbed a dude's arm into a piece of wood and he got stuck there. You can take your dagger and also like stab someone's shield and rip it out of their hand. Like there's so many cool new things about it. Like I'm sure since you've played it.
Yeah.
Plus the magic is cool.
But so for the big appeal that Josh and our audience probably doesn't know here, there's a certain draw. There's a certain reason that this game is considered really unique and successful for figuring out melee combat in VR. And it's an approach that you'll either love or you'll hate. And I haven't fell on a side, but I fell on, boy, it's not what I'm used to when I tried it. So Gorn was the first big melee game to explode. And the brilliant thing they figured out was a thing that unfortunately other people can't imitate without going the same cartoony, silly route. But with Gorn, the idea is the weapon tracking stays 1-to-1 regardless of like, you know, making contact with other things. But the catch is to simulate the weight of the weapon. The heavier the weapon, the bendier it is. So if you're swinging a warhammer over your head, it follows through very slowly. And that's how you kind of feel the weight of it. But this means the weapons are bendy, and it means the game looks silly and cartoony, and other people can't rip it off and imitate it without following their style. Blade and Sorcery took
fully
a different
realism
approach where it said forget the 1-to-1 perfect hand tracking. Your games in the hand, hands in the game, Jesus, are going to follow through slower than you actually moved to simulate the weight.
Yeah.
And in some regards, that's way more realistic because it means you can't walk up to someone and shank them 50 times in 3 seconds by shaking your hand. But it also means it feels a little bit off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I don't know. For some people, it's a revolutionary breakthrough. For other people, it's immersion breaking.
See,
I could see that going either way.
I know what you mean. You know, every time I explain Gorn to somebody, I'm showing my age, and maybe hopefully people will understand it. But I always say, picture a lot of violence, but with soccer boppers. They're sock and boppers. It's very animated, very unique art style, and I loved Gorn when I first played it. I mean, you actually had to kick me out of your house because I got so enveloped in the game, and it got really late. Dalton. Mm-hmm. But I did notice the not the true movement, like when you're actually in a fight. But if you're sitting there and messing around with the weapon, like it feels a little more articulated. Where it's like I said, I'm a fan of HEMA, and let's be fair, I'm the guy that bought a practice sword, and my buddy also bought a practice sword, and we actually went outside and would beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, you're a mall ninja. I got it.
Yeah. No, I'm a mall ninja. But I guess I may have the advantage of knowing how like swords are kind of supposed to work, where I can kind of just think about how it's supposed to be in my head.
I get that it's more
strategy than it is actual just, you know, beat the shit out of something until it dies.
Yeah, there is more thought and more strategy to it. It's definitely it's a game you have to think more about. It takes a bit more skill than Gorn.
Yeah.
It's just that comes to some people, I think me included, but I'll jump into it again and see. It just, that has to balance with, is it worth the break in immersion in realism because it's not following your hands at speed.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You can feel the disconnect, and it's, can you deal with it or not? It's the same thing with like some people to navigate a VR game world. Some people really want like trackpad or joystick movement, and other people really want teleporting, and both of them have reasons that they can either give you more immersion or break your immersion.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. Your brain works this way or it works that way.
Yeah, that's fair. But moving on from Blade and Sorcery, have you played VR Dungeon Night in a while? Because that was my other game.
Not in a long time.
Because they introduced so much more. Because I remember when you first had me play it, it was, hey, it's just like a demo. You like I figured out how to climb on curtains and shit, and it was just like one single dungeon. They've changed the game entirely because now you have crossbows, guns, a magic staff. You can cast spells with the spell book. Swords and shields. Like there's a lot different in the game. And I guess you have to like build up until you have enough either weaponry or enough level. You can play co-op, by the way, now. Mm-hmm. So like if you and I had a separate copy of the game, we could play it together.
I've played it co-op, but I think you're actually mixing it up with a different game I had you try that was similar. I don't think you've tried one at my house.
Oh, maybe not.
You tried a different similar one, but yeah.
Oh, maybe
I
am thinking of a
co-op
one.
and it's really cool.
Okay. Yeah, I might be thinking of a different one, but either way, I love the hell out of this. I wish I had a little more space for this one and Blade and Sorcery, which now that I have my VR headset, I think I'm going to do some rearranging of my office space so that way I can have a little more free floating room, because I can't tell you how many times I would swing a sword at an enemy in Blade and Sorcery and I'd punch my controller off of my microphone's arm, like sitting on my desk, and I'm like, there's a lot of money here that I can break really quickly. But VR Dungeon Night is maybe it wasn't the game you had me play, but I'm actually loving it, and that would be pretty fun to play together. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll buy that in the future.
Do it for sure. Summer sale coming.
Yeah, that's right. Do we have a date on that?
It was rumored to start June 25th, but I don't think there's an official date.
Did Keanu Reeves tell you that?
He did in my
approximately
dreams.
A week. So my VR game of the week I jumped into, Alex, you've actually already talked about this once, but that doesn't mean I don't get to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
I jumped back into Super Hot VR.
Super Hot's great.
Have you played it VR though?
I have. I played it VR. I've actually only played it VR.
That's same here.
So that's true for all three of us, because there's no possible way the original could compare.
Right. Like, after experiencing it in VR, I was like, well, yeah, I could play like a dumb version now, but why would I bother? It's like this thing that was cool, except it's not cool anymore. Wow. Yeah. Great. Thanks. Yeah. Sign me up.
At least there's some appeal in that the VR game is a totally different game, and it's not, hey, play back through these same levels, but without VR.
Right.
At least there's that. Still not going to do it, because there's just no way it could compare. That said, having jumped back into it after I played it 2 years ago, and I've made people try it out regularly since, I wanted to see, how does this still hold up after I've had 2 years to get over the honeymoon period? And it's still, it's a hard answer, because I'm getting pickier about how you should be spending money in VR. It's still one of the top games for it. Mm-hmm. It's still one of those games that you need to have. I guess some of our audience might not know what this game is. It's the Matrix simulator. Time only moves when you move, so everything's in slow motion. Kill everything slowly before it gets to you. It feels super badass, still holds up, but it is only 3 or 4 hours of content, depending on how good you are. And that being the case, I'm getting real sick of spending a lot of money in VR to get very little content. And so I have to advise waiting for a sale. You still have to have it if you get a VR headset, if only to let other people play it. That's why I own a lot of the VR games that I do. It's just to let other people play it and enjoy that.
It's like owning an expensive car. It's like a status quo kind of thing.
Yeah. But it should not be at the price point it's at now, which might be $25, which made sense when there was no competition and VR was in its first year, but there's a lot to choose from now, and something with 3 or 4 hours of content just should not be up there.
Right.
Yeah, that said, still love it. Still had a good time, and still managed to punch a fucking wall while I was playing it. You would think, having owned the VR headset for 2 years now and being very, familiar with how the chaperone works, that I would manage to avoid it. And you would think, in slow motion, why would you ever accidentally hit anything? But I've hit the walls more times in Super Hot than most VR games somehow, regardless.
Most VR games where you actually punch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that's a way to put it, huh? I didn't finish.
I think you still get kind of freaked out by how surrounded you get. It's like, you're in slow motion and you can see the bullets coming at you and catch them, but you can be getting shot from 3 directions at the same time.
Right. Yeah, that's
it's
true.
It's really funny about Super Hot that way because you actually have all the time in the world to think about what you're doing next, but it's hard to remember that when there's shit coming at you from so many angles. Your like natural inclination is I gotta move really fast to deal with all of this stuff, but that's actually the worst way to play the game. So it's actually kind of interesting to struggle with yourself when you play that game.
Yeah, although the most fun that the game gets is when it's laid out in kind of numbered chapters. I think it's something like 20 chapters, and each of those has maybe 4 or 5 little segments in it that, if you lose on the 5th segment, you go back to the first segment. And the most fun it gets is when you're struggling with segment 4 or 5 and you keep getting thrown back to 1, 2, and 3 over and over again, but you've got them down so good that you're no longer doing it slowly. And you've got your movements down perfectly, not just to the point of like, grab this gun, shoot this guy, he'll drop this weapon, catch that, throw it at this guy, but down to the minute details of your movement. How far down am I going to crouch?
Yeah.
How far out exactly does my arm need to go to grab the weapon out of his hand? And that's when it feels the best.
Yeah.
Is when a segment that took you 30 seconds on the first try is taking you 3 seconds after you've got it down.
That's why I love the knife segments so much.
Wonder if there's any speed runs out there.
Like, you ever I forget which part it is, but there's a part with a knife. You punch a dude, take a knife, throw it at the other dude, grab the gun, and like like those are like my favorite sections whenever you get stuck at, because I'm like, hell yeah, this just feels so rewarding every time. Like, no matter like how frustrated I'm getting, this part feels really good.
If you ever wanted to play a game that makes you feel like John Wick, it's Super Hot.
Yeah.
And not John Wick VR.
Oh, is there actually a John Wick VR?
Enough, there is.
Is it not?
Do you have
pretty
it?
middling reviews. I haven't tried it.
Okay. Do you have it though, Dalton?
No.
Because I noticed in the past 2 months, we went from having 30 games to 87 VR games.
No, I don't know what happened there. I've barely bought any VR games in the last year. I don't know why that happened.
I don't know, but man, it feels like we jumped through a lot. Maybe I'm thinking of like before I started really getting into playing VR. But like,
sure,
man, there was a significant jump, because I swear we only had like 30 games shared between us, and then I go in after I get my headset fixed, and I'm like, holy shit, there's 87. What happened?
Yeah, but so that's not one of them,
man.
All right, I asked earlier and then we interrupted it. Josh, do you have anything else to bring up?
No, I think I'm good for this week.
Alex?
No, I'm good. Dalton, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I have like 5 more things, but I think I'll just go with one. Save more for next time.
Sure.
When Josh will be missing again.
Aw.
Those are the best episodes.
Yeah, it gives you
And
something
Josh
to
knows
do.
because he listens to those religiously.
They're the only ones I do listen to. I cannot stomach the sound of my own voice.
It takes a while to get used
now
to
since the reboot.
It really has been.
I
Yeah.
actually haven't listened to any of the episodes since I got this new microphone, so maybe I don't sound as horrible as I do in my mind. I know I do.
Go back and do it again.
You just want to believe that it sounds better, but you don't want to listen and find out that it doesn't.
It's a Schrodinger's audio.
See, before you go into your thing, Dalton, this, like, when we first started this, I remember you and I having this conversation of, man, we're gonna really have to get used to or get really tired of our own voices.
Mm-hmm.
Because
how's it feel now?
I can tolerate it. Like, it's this weird thing, because I mean, you and I together, like, have done so many music projects and we were just like, man, this sounds like ass, you know, whenever it comes to our voices. But now I feel like it's more tolerable, a little more tolerable now.
I can tolerate my voice. It's just fine nowadays.
Nobody
All
can
right,
tolerate
have either
that.
of you heard of Weird City? Weird City on YouTube Premium.
No.
Okay.
Wait, you
this
have
is a
premium
Jordan
now?
Peele show. For now.
For
shortly to binge watch some stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a Jordan Peele series, which is strange because he basically did this and Twilight Zone at the same time, and they're both anthologies. So I don't know how that went down. He's like, oh, I got the Twilight Zone. Let me also write a different anthology for YouTube. I haven't watched his Twilight Zone at all, but this
Me either.
Weird City is a little closer to Black Mirror than Twilight Zone. It's more sci-fi, and what's different about this anthology that I don't see often, you'll remember when we discussed Titties, Kitties, and Robots. I mean, what was the actual title?
Titties, Kitties, and
Love,
Robots.
Death, and Robots. Oh, okay. Oh, I had it the first time. When we discussed that, I think both times we discussed that, I asked, why are these an anthology? Why are they tied together? Why are they connected? And with Weird City, it's only 6 episodes, but they actually take place in the same city, and that's
that's weird.
Together. I don't know if I've seen something like that before, where here's an anthology sci-fi series, and there's actually a tiny bit of overlap between them.
Right.
Very little overlap. Honestly, it's kind of underused. The idea here is a city that is
weird,
divided into the poor and the wealthy, like with a very strict, here's where these people live, here's where these people live.
Okay.
But what's strange is they only really take advantage of that setting for like an episode or two. So outside of that, it's like maybe you'll hear this corporation mentioned in both of these episodes. Maybe you'll see this bar in both of these couple episodes. But they really don't take as much advantage as they should of being in the same world. That said, it's still a pretty decent show, with some of the appeal being that they managed to get some good actors in here, like some actors that have to cost them a bit of money for YouTube. I guess the ones who's coming to mind off the top of my head. What's the name of the Reading Rainbow and Star Trek guy?
LeVar Burton.
There we go.
Well,
Michael Cera.
I only know that because of Community, by the way, not because of Star Trek.
Nice. Laverne Cox. There's a few in there, not like Brad Pitt or anything, but people that are like, oh, they have a name that took money. Rosario Dawson. That said, I said it's closer to Black Mirror, but it's really not so bleak and dark. It's a bit more satirical.
mm-hmm.
Like there's a bit where like some of the people from the wealthy part of the city are going down to the poor part, and they basically like abduct a child, and they think they're saving him because he's a little poor. Like his father must be mistreating him and treating him terribly and not taking care of him. And so they straight up abduct him and think they're doing a good thing. And the
the
kid's
fuck?
like texting his dad, like all confused about these morons. And it's that kind of satire. It's it's worth the YouTube Premium free trial for.
Okay.
I wouldn't spend money just to get to this. It's binge watchable in like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's pretty short and it's decent. There's money behind it, but it's
You should watch Cobra Kai
not-
too.
but it's not groundbreaking. It's entertaining enough. It's not, it caught people off guard when Jordan Peele jumped into horror and now he's like a genre writer and not comedy. But this is like, oh, what if the guy that writes Get Out and Us also still does comedy at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not brilliant, but there's an appeal to that. It's popcorn. It's fun. It's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give this one a shot because I actually pay for premium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll check out Twilight Zone soon, and maybe I haven't seen the reception to that at all, but
You have to see
I'm
a bunch
hoping-
before you get rid of your premium. So I'm going to send you like a giant list and you have nothing else to do but watch that.
yeah, sure thing. I did have like 4 or 5 other things here on my list, but I'm gonna save those for next week when we're missing Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think we're good to go.
All right. Awesome. Josh, you sure don't have anything else to say?
I was gonna just not say anything as a joke, but then I realized that doesn't really play well when you can't see my face. So
It'd be really funny if we just
Nosh
said
Rear
that.
around?
if
Yeah,
you
it's
just,
Nosh
if you just
Rear.
end the episode after Josh,
Yeah,
you have
just
anything else
end
to
the
say?
episode right
episode's
there.
Just fucking over. Should have thought that through. Long story short, nah, I'm good, guys.
All right.
All right.
Cool.
I still might end it there. All right. Check out our recently posted spotlight on Reservoir Dogs and watch out for Pulp Fiction next week. And thank you for listening. And and look up the YouTube channel, you fuckers, and watch our Let's Play.
Yeah.
Was that a warm greeting for why you should
Watch our
get
podcast
another
and
Let's
listen to
Play?
our Let's Plays. Watch our podcast, listen to our
Exactly.
Let's Plays.
All right. Thank you, bitches.
Bye.